welcome to Target UPSC Prelims 2024, and this is the last episode of Environment and Geography. So we will be discussing about the environment, India and world, and miscellaneous aspect of it. So let's begin. First topic is about Arctic amplification. As the name itself is telling, we will be looking into the Arctic zone and Arctic amplification. So recently the World Meteorological Organization has published a research, and the research talks about that there is an unusually high increase in the temperature of the Arctic region. So the Arctic region is experiencing an unusual high temperature, due to which the Arctic region has become at least twice as hot as the global average temperature. And Arctic is a region which is full of ice sheets. And so imagine that if the area which is full of ice sheets, that area is experiencing high temperature, so the ice sheets will start to melt, and this is what is causing the problem. Then the difference in temperature rise between the poles and the tropics is called the Arctic amplification. See, what happens is, imagine this is the world. So North Pole, South Pole, this is equator, then you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So what happens is that North Pole and South Pole experiences unusually high temperatures, while as compared to other area which has comparatively less temperature. So that difference of temperature and the unusual high rise temperature of the North Pole and the South Pole, that rise in temperature is what is called Arctic amplification. So the difference in temperature rise between the poles and the tropics is called Arctic amplification. Now what is the Arctic warming? So the snow cover in the Arctic is melting, due to which sunlight is reaching the land or water directly. And earlier, when there was so much of ice and so much of snow cover, so that snow cover used to absorb that light. Now that snow cover is depleting, so the sunlight is directly reaching the land or the water in the Arctic. So due to this, the area is absorbing more amount of sunlight, while the existing system of air circulation transfer heat from the tropics to the poles. Now that the snow cover is becoming very less and the snow cover is depleting, so what is happening is, if directly the sunlight is coming onto the land and the water directly, so more absorption of sunlight is taking place, and because of that more absorption, the snow cover will be depleting even faster. Polar amplification is occurring more in the Arctic than in the Antarctic. So between the Antarctic and the Arctic, the polar amplification is happening more at the Arctic. Then about the World Meteorological Organization, that is WMO, it is an intergovernmental organization which was adopted in 1950, and it originates from the IMO, which is International Meteorological Organization, which was founded in 1873. Then the headquarters is in Geneva, Switzerland. The membership is around 193 member countries and territories. World Meteorological Congress is its supreme body to take all the decisions. Then it is also a specialized agency of the United Nations. So this was about WMO. Question can be asked from this, and the Arctic amplification topic is also very much in news. Now comes the topic of cloud seeding, one of the most prominent topic for this year, because this was very much in news, as it was in news because of Dubai also, because of Delhi also, even though many places it did not work out, but there was instances that this technique would be used. So recently IIT Kanpur has successfully conducted a test flight for cloud seeding. Now what is cloud seeding? Word itself is telling cloud, it means it is related to cloud. Seeding, it means some kind of things are seeded into the clouds. So it is a technique of artificially, so it is artificial, it is man-made, changing the weather with the help of which rain is induced artificially. So cloud seeding is an artificial method for rain. Rain occurs when the amount of moisture in the air reaches such a level where the weight and size of the water particles start increasing and it is no longer possible for them to remain suspended in the atmosphere. Now what happens is, now imagine this is cloud. What happens when precipitation takes place or rain happens? So because of the condensation process, the water vapor, it starts to come down in the form of rain. Now that water vapor particles or that water particles become so much big in size that it becomes difficult for them to retain their position and to retain that moisture. So that comes down in the form of rain. After they no more is capable of holding the moisture. Then these water particles start falling on the earth in the form of drops, and that drops is what is referred to as rain or precipitation. The purpose is to facilitate and accelerate this process by providing chemical nuclei for the condensation reaction. This technique works only when there is already sufficient amount of cloud present in the atmosphere, because this cloud seeding technique is dependent on the cloud. Mainly 8 chemicals are used in cloud seeding, that is silver iodide, dry ice, potassium iodide, propane, calcium carbide, ammonium nitrate, sodium chloride, urea compounds. Question can be asked from this aspect about the chemicals and about the process also, like condensation process, moisture, holding capacity. Then comes the next topic, and that is about the shelf cloud. Shelf cloud, this is the image. So recently shelf cloud phenomena was observed in the state of Uttarakhand, and shelf cloud was also known as the arc cloud. These clouds are commonly associated with powerful storm system. So a large storm also comes with it. These are also described as wall clouds, funnel clouds or rotation. These clouds are sometimes seen below cumulonimbus clouds. So there are different kinds of clouds, and one of them type is the cumulonimbus cloud. So during the formation of the cumulonimbus cloud, the cloud which is seen below the cumulonimbus cloud is the shelf cloud. Then cumulus rain clouds are extremely dense, vertically extended clouds of great height that cause intense rainfall. And during the time of cyclone formation also cumulonimbus cloud is present. So the cloud which is present below it is the shelf cloud. Cumulus rain clouds are extremely dense, vertically extended clouds of great height that cause intense rainfall. So it is, cumulonimbus cloud is great in height, and when they come, the great rainfall or very heavy rainfall is also observed. This cloud air spreads rapidly over the surface and pushes the existing warm moist air over the surface upward. As the air rises, water vapor condenses into shelf cloud patterns, and that is how the rain starts to happen. So important point is condensation process. When there is water vapor, condensation process will happen, and then only the rain will start. Next point is water trading. Recently Niti Aayog has released a document on water trading mechanism to promote reuse of treated wastewater. So what happens with the wastewater? Wastewater is first treated. Now there is point of reusing the treated wastewater. So important word is reusing. Water trading mechanism recognizes water as a commodity rather than a public good. So it is talking about, and it is treating water as a commodity, something which can be used. Under this, water can be treated among users as per their needs. So according to the needs of the person, water can be used. The mechanism whereby a water company purchases water from a third party and sells it to the users. So this is a water company, it will take water from a third party and then it will sell it to the users. Now major factors promoting water trading, why is it taking place and why is it even more spreading, the term water trading? So the water ownership, that there should be clarity about this. Water rights can be transferred from one to another. water reuse certificate. It can be used as a tradable permit. It means it can be traded. Water users in all sectors including municipal, residential, industrial. So in every sector this water can be used. Target for water reuse will be set for each user. So individually it can be done. Then water users can sell their WRC in the open market. So the open market also is accepting it. Then arrangements in other countries related to water trading. With regard to other countries, let us first see about Australia. So the water trading system implemented in the Murray-Darling Basin has proven to be one of the best ways to use water efficiently. Because if it is reused, it means that the water is being used efficiently and it is being treated efficiently also. So water trading has helped farmers make more productive use of water and also promoted sustainable water management. Very useful for the farmers. Then also South Africa, Spain, these countries are also using this technique. Then Belém Declaration. So Belém Declaration, recently the members of the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, they have signed the Belém Declaration, and Belém is a city in Brazil. So you should know that who has signed the Belém Declaration, that is ACTO. And the declaration calls for the participation of indigenous people in the decision making process. So in the decision making process with regard to that area or the Amazon area, indigenous people's participation should be there. It also committed to starting an Amazon coalition agreement against deforestation, though member countries have not been able to agree on the goal of protecting the Amazon rainforest. So it is also talking about that deforestation should not be promoted. Then ACTO is an intergovernmental and socio-environmental organization, and it is basically in the region of the Amazon rainforest. It was formed by signing the Amazon Cooperation Treaty. Then its members are Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname and Venezuela. So you can say that basically the Amazon rainforest countries. Then comes the next topic, and that is the policy regarding export of red sandalwood. And red sandalwood always remains in news because of their illegal export. So the Directorate General of Foreign Trade has amended the policy regarding export of red sandalwood obtained from private agricultural land. So this is with regard to the private agricultural land, and this amendment has been issued under the power conferred by the Foreign Trade Act 1992 and the Foreign Trade Policy 2023. So under the recent amendment, annual export quota for artificial red sandalwood has been notified for Tamil Nadu. So this has been notified for the state of Tamil Nadu. And also zero export quota for wild red sandalwood has also been notified. Wild red sandalwood, zero export quota, and artificial red sandalwood, the export quota has been provided to the Tamil Nadu. Then the red sandalwood in artificial form means red sandalwood grown in private plantations. Under foreign trade policy, import of red sandalwood is restricted while its export is also restricted. So import and export both is restricted. Then earlier DGFT has revised its export policy in the year 2019 to allow export of red sandalwood in the form of logs or roots. This permission could be given only if this red sandalwood was exclusively obtained from private agricultural land. So see, private agricultural land is where the export is allowed. Private agricultural land. Then about red sandalwood, it is an endemic species of the forest of the Eastern Ghat, and it very much remains in news because of its illegal export, because it remains very much in demand and it takes a lot of time to come up. The species grows very slowly, and to reach maturity, it reaches maturity only after 25 to 40 years. So it needs around 25 to 40 years to reach maturity. It is a fire resistant and drought resistant tree species. Now this is one of the speciality, that fire resistant and drought resistant. It is locally known as Yera Chandanam and Rakta Chandanam. So it is red in color. Then due to its medicinal properties, it remains very much in demand in India and outside India also. It is used in cosmetics, medicinal products and luxury furniture, wooden crafts also, and this luxury furniture is very, very expensive. About the conservation status, IUCN Red List is endangered. Indian Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it is under Schedule 4, and CITES, it is under Appendix 2. So IUCN Red List status is endangered. Then comes the topic of marine light pollution. So a recent study talks about that there is threat posed to coastal marine system by marine light pollution. Light pollution. And light pollution is also known as artificial light at night. So many a times you will see that during the night time, the lights that are used, so that is causing the marine light pollution. It is excessively poorly directed or blocked artificial light coming from an external source in the environment, somewhere from the external source. Then sources of light for marine ecosystem is, first of all, natural source, that is sun and moon light, starlight, bioluminescent light. Then bioluminescent light is light produced as a result of biochemical reaction within certain organisms. Now this is natural, this can take place. Artificial light can be urban lights, offshore light and gas platforms, wind farms and island development, and that is what is causing problem to the marine life. Then importance of light for marine ecosystem. So generally the ocean is divided into 3 parts based on the amount of light, that is euphotic zone 200 meters, dysphotic zone 200 and 1000 meters, and aphotic zone below 1000 meters. Then marine organisms have visual systems guided by light, and additionally solar and lunar cycles regulate their life events such as egg hatching, because this process, they are very much dependent on the light to guide them. Then next is polyethylene terephthalate degrading enzyme, that is PET, PET46. So recently researchers have discovered PET46 in a deep sea microorganism for the very first time. So if this has happened for the very first time, it becomes important. PET is a type of polyester. Important. It is used in making plastic bottles and containers for packaging of food items and beverages. So the plastic items which you see, it is considered suitable for food packaging material as it is lightweight, non-reactive and economical. So polyester, unique ability to degrade both long chain and short chain PET molecules. This causes continuous degradation of PET. Then about its significance, it can destroy PET waste in the ocean. Then this can help effectively in efforts to combat plastic pollution. Then it will contribute to understanding the ecological role of marine organism in the deep sea. Then other PET degrading enzymes include PETase, methase, then THC cut1, etc. Then comes the next topic, and that is tropicalization. Due to climate change, tropical marine species are migrating from the equator towards the poles and reaching the temperate zone. So if this is equator, this is pole, so the marine or species are migrating from equator towards poles. So due to this increase in the number of species in the temperate zone, and the endemic species are decreasing. So other species are increasing, but the endemic species are decreasing in numbers. It is noteworthy that this widespread displacement of marine organism has been called tropicalization. Due to the increase of tropical species in the Mediterranean Sea, it is now being considered a tropicalization hotspot. So Mediterranean Sea has been considered a hotspot. Ecological communities are being rearranged, and biorealization refers to the expansion of temperate zone species into Arctic polar region. So a new term, that is biorealization, also comes into it. Then wedge bank ecosystem. So the proposed exploration and development of oil and gas blocks may have an impact on the wedge bank ecosystem. If we talk about the wedge bank, then it is a part of India which is southern to the, you can say, which is southern to the southern plateau of India, and it lies in the Indian Ocean. You can say that it lies to the southern part of the Kanyakumari, and it lies in India's economic exclusive zone. Then these blocks will be explored under the hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy, that is HELP. Now about wedge bank ecosystem. So that is, this ecosystem is located south of Cape Comorin in the Kanyakumari district of Tamil Nadu. It is part of the continental shelf of India. It is one of the most productive coastal areas in the world and also a very good fishing zone. Then the water currents of Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea meet in this region, where these water currents have different patterns during the southwest and northeast monsoon season, and this is and because these water currents meet there, also becomes a very good fishing ground. Then about the Ramsar Convention. So 5 wetlands of India have been included in the global list of wetlands under international importance. Number of Ramsar sites in India have now increased to 80, and 3 of these sites, that is Ankasamudra Bird Conservation Reserve, and then Aghanasashini Estuary, Magadi Khere Conservation Reserve, they are located in Karnataka, while 2 are located in Tamil Nadu. So 3 in Karnataka and 2 in Tamil Nadu. Then about Ramsar Convention, it was adopted in 1971. It is an intergovernmental treaty, provides a framework for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. Conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. Then to be declared a Ramsar site, a wetland has to meet at least one of 9 criteria. So out of 9 criteria, 1 should be met, such as regularly providing shelter to 20,000 or more water birds or conserving biological diversity, etc. So there are around 9 to 10 criteria like this. So India ratified the Ramsar Convention in 1982, and in India the highest number of Ramsar Convention sites are present in Tamil Nadu. Then comes the next topic, and that is greenwashing. So recently the Central Consumer Protection Authority, that is CCPA, it has released proposed draft guidelines on prevention and regulation of greenwashing under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, and this has sought suggestion from public regarding these draft guidelines. Now important is, what is greenwashing? So under greenwashing, a company tries to make its products, activities or policies appear environmentally friendly by hiding the real fact related to them. The company will show that their products are environment friendly, but that might not be the true nature of it. Exaggerated, vague, false or baseless claims are also made for greenwashing to get benefits. Greenwashing is defined and prohibited under the draft. This will be applicable to all services taken for advertising, such as all type advertisement, service providers, advertisers, endorsers, etc. This information disclosure intentionally prohibits the presentation of selective data. Then it provides for full disclosure of environmental claims such as green, eco-friendly, eco-conscious, etc., which are used in advertisements. Initiative that has been taken to stop greenwashing in India, like Bureau of Indian Standards, it has developed a standard named this for eco-labeling of products and services. And then the Central Consumer Protection Authority has been established under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. So greenwashing nowadays is in news very much. So these are the topics that we discussed in today's episodes. Let us remind once again that is greenwashing, Ramsar Convention, wedge bank ecosystem, tropic alcication, PET 46, marine light pollution, red sandalwood, policy regarding export of red sandalwood, then Belém Declaration, water trading, shelf cloud, cloud seeding, Arctic amplification. So this was about the last episode of Environment and Geography, and this was episode 8 of 8. So with this we comes to the end of the environment and geography section. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.